So Martha, how you doing?
Fantastic. How
Where
are
are
you?
we?
We're in my house in Miami-Dade County.
In Miami-Dade. We were talking about before, this is my first time in Miami. Literally drove in from Orlando straight to your house.
So my whole thing was welcome to the capital of Latin America.
Yes.
Welcome to Miami.
Welcome to Miami. Actually, that's a curious question. What is the demographic
Of Miami?
Of Miami.
It is mostly Hispanic.
Mostly Hispanic. Okay.
But we have some of the largest diasporas in the world in one place. So it's the largest Cuban diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's among the largest, if not the largest, diaspora of Venezuelans who are fleeing communism. So it's made up. We also have a huge demographic of Nicaraguans, Colombians, mostly South Americans, Haitians, Bahamians, you name it, we've got it here. So it's a melting pot, but we call it the capital of LATAM because all of those countries are here. And then also this is the gateway to go to Latin America. Most flights originate here. Cargo from Latin America usually makes it here. So it's
a big hub.
It's a big hub and
Gotcha.
it keeps growing. The last 100 years we went, we've received over 6 million people here, but not everybody settles here. We have 3 million population currently.
Oh, okay.
It's huge.
Well, see, I'm from New Jersey, so I'm close to New York. So, I think New York's...
It's not as huge.
Yeah. New York City is overrun, in my opinion. I think New York is close to 10 million. I think it's 9 million people.
In the whole state of Florida, we have 20 million.
Okay.
And we have big cities. We have Tampa, we have Jacksonville, so Miami, Fort Lauderdale. We have a lot of big cities. We make it to 20 million, the whole state.
That's interesting. But no, so far, it's fine. The peacocks, I didn't know that was a thing.
Miami has animals. What do you want from us? We've got iguanas that are invasive. We've got peacocks that I think are invasive. I'm not sure how those got here, but they're everywhere. Chickens, everywhere you go, there's chickens out on the street. You'll see.
I was driving here. I was talking to a friend in the UK, and I was like, "Holy shit, is that a peacock?" I just didn't. It completely caught me off guard.
Oh yeah. Did you? So you noticed it was a peacock, so you saw a male peacock? Because the female peacocks aren't pretty.
Okay, is that how it works? Okay, then yeah.
In the bird world, the females are always the ugly bird.
Gotcha.
Males are the ones with the big, beautiful feathers.
That's interesting. Yeah, because they use that
to attract the women.
That's right. It's the mating thing. That's right.
The mating thing.
I did learn about that.
In elementary school, we forget those things, right? Part of that knowledge that we can just put in the back of our mind and never access again.
Well, all that peacock knowledge always comes into play on a daily basis. So for people who aren't too familiar with you, how did you get into politics?
So I got into politics around 2016. I had a little bit of extra free time. The kids had started to grow up a little. And I realized, I saw something on Facebook, and I realized that I could go get involved with Gary Johnson's campaign. Realize that you can get involved, that, those people that you see on TV are real, and you can actually join them. And I did. I went to a few protests for Gary Johnson to let him debate. Obviously, that didn't work out. I volunteered for his campaign. Obviously, that didn't work out either. Then I came home and got contacted by the Libertarian Party of Miami-Dade County, and I started going to their meetings, became the vice chair shortly thereafter, stayed there for 4 years. And in that process, I also got elected to a Miami-Dade County seat, a seat as a community council member, which is a very local seat. It's a volunteer position. Became just a member, then the vice chair, and then the chair. Then I ran for Miami-Dade County Commission. Did not get that job, and here we are.
There we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. And overall, how would you say like your experience was?
Eye-opening.
Okay.
Very eye-opening. I think everybody knows that there's corruption in politics, but until you go into the belly of the beast, and honestly, it was not in my position that I went into the belly of the beast, so to say. It was more going to the commission meetings. I got really involved, and I started paying attention to what was happening, where the money was going, who was asking for money, and why, and that's when I discovered, I was like, wait, how big is the budget exactly? You know, we have a budget that's bigger than countries' budgets. The country of El Salvador has 3 million people, just like Miami-Dade County, but their budget is $6 billion. We have almost double that. We have no transportation to show for. We hardly have any services. If you are in an abusive relationship and you need to go to a homeless shelter or a shelter for women, it's very hard to get a bed, and yet we spend over $45 million on the homeless alone, plus then these shelters. The money is just, it flows into them, and there's nothing. So it's eye-opening to see how much money they take from you. And the opposite side of that, if you can't pay your property taxes where it is that they get that money, they will take your home from you. So while it's a noble intention to say, hey, everybody who has a home should contribute to this homeless population, let's say. Well, if I can't pay for that, I will lose my home. So it's such a noble intention that we're willing to make you homeless now to help the homeless, you know? And so I think once you start getting really involved and you see those things, how can you, like, it becomes all consuming. How do you help? How do you change the system? How do you do these things? And I don't have an answer for you, but I mean, I wanted to try.
Right.
I wanted to do something. Can't just sit there and do nothing.
Well, I mean, a lot of people do. You could. But I think it's very interesting once you start getting into the circle, whatever circle it might be. Most people are on the outside of something, but once you get into it, it does change your perspective a little bit. Either it says how I saw things was wrong, or it might confirm how you thought, but now you have more details as to like where it, you know, if it's good, it's great here. If it's bad here. You have more of nuance in your argument, or maybe you find that it disproves how you saw things. But it's very interesting. The first thing you're talking about is the corruption.
There's tons of it. It's blatant.
Yeah. I always find that the corruption exists where it's like mob movies, right?
It is literally like a mob movie.
But like from the aspect that it's always the same actors, right? It's always Robert De Niro. It's always Al Pacino.
I wish that was the case in government.
So it's like it's different people leave and the new people come in but continue the same thing?
Yes and no. So,
okay.
For example, the commission. And the reason I keep going back to the commission is because they are the controlling body for this county. So, for example, they would be like the Senate, right? Or the House, or, you know, there's a president, which is the mayor of Miami. And then there's this body of 13 that make all the decisions and write all the rules. Right. So up until the seat that I ran for, which was District 10, the person who was in it before was in it since I was in high school, since 1992, I believe. So, I mean, or even before I was in high school, I think I was in middle school. Like he was there, and then they changed the rules and put term limits. So in that case, same person throughout all these years. But it doesn't matter. They play musical chairs. Everybody, you know, that like pays attention to Bitcoin knows the mayor of the city of Miami, not the mayor of Miami-Dade County. Two different positions. One has no power.
Wait a second. Hold on a second. So there's a mayor of Miami.
Yes, Daniela Levine Cava.
But then there's a mayor of Miami-Dade County?
No, that's Miami-Dade County's mayor, the city of Miami. So the city of Miami encompasses downtown and like I think some part of the beach, and like it's a very small area.
Right.
That area has a mayor, and that is Francis Suarez, the Bitcoin guy that everyone heard from and was like, okay. His father was a commissioner for I don't know how many years. So again, going back to, is it the same person? It could be. It could be, like in this case, a family legacy. It could be a guy that was in position for 30 years. It could be. Mm-hmm. But then there's the ones that come and go, because it is a political game and you have to get into office. So, for example, one of the commissioners, Steve Bovo, is now the mayor of Hialeah, which is another city, which is, I think the population there is 89% Spanish speaking. So you go in there, you won't find an English speaker, pretty much. We just recycle them. We go from here to there to there to here. And the former mayor of Doral is now one of the commissioners. Like, it's just, they move around. They play this thing. But sometimes there's newcomers, and you quickly get sucked into the corruption.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to become friends with certain. One woman is a congresswoman. I think she did one term in D.C. Another one was running for Congress. We become friends with them. And the one that made it through, she was telling me how it became clear as to what you had to do to stay. Mm-hmm. You know, she kind of like insinuated, like there were certain things she just didn't want to do that, but you have to do those things to stay. So that's when you see,
or to win,
or to win. Right, the winning part is the first part, but now if you need to keep winning, all right, so now that I'm in here, how do I keep winning? Well, you got to do these certain things.
I did see that.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah. And I think that's why most people are not attracted to government. Partly why I'm not attracted to government or being part of it is because it's so I sound like a leftist, deep-rooted, deep-seated, but it's kind of true. Like systemically, you take one person out, but the system still exists. It's kind of like when they got rid of El Chapo. Well, they didn't stock the junk chicken.
No.
Just another guy.
Just somebody else fills the spot.
Right.
And the whole system is so corrupt that changing one person or changing 5 of them isn't going to change it.
Right.
The corruption goes further back, way further back. And it's also the people who are in government itself that they don't get elected. Mm-hmm. So you're only seeing the figureheads. You're only seeing the commissioners. You vote for the commissioners, but there are thousands of people in Miami-Dade County who work for the county that you never vote for, and they have total control of certain aspects, like the building and zoning, for example, which is the thing that most people encounter. There's certain friction points where you encounter government and you're like, oh my God, building something. We don't have housing. We don't have enough housing. One of the biggest problems we have for our youth, and I have children that are now adults and are potentially looking for a place to live, and they're looking at this like, you know, $3,000 a month rents, and they're like, how could I possibly make that kind of money to live there? You know, you have to have like a $10,000 a month salary to cover a $3,000 rent, right? And so it's affecting us there. So you go into the building department and you're like, I'd like to build a home. I have this piece of land and I'd like to build a home. Well, there's so many hurdles. And the fastest way to get your property built is to make sure you grease the wheels that are going to, you know, give you those things. Right. Like I said, I was on a county board. I was on a community council board. And our job was to hear the variances for properties. People had to, just to get in front of us, and this isn't something that I could change. I had no power to. That was the commission side, which is why I wanted to run for it. Right. Just to get in front of us, just to file the paperwork to be heard was an average cost of $3,000. And so for your average person who wants to put, let's say, a shed in their backyard past a certain line, because you have to have a certain amount of space from something, $3,000? Mm-hmm. And that's not to have representation. That's to go represent yourself. I mean, it's a brutal system. And I think that if you start encountering government more often, you become, I think, what I've become, which is this absolute hatred for it. Absolute hatred for it. Like I said, you could lose your home if you don't pay your property taxes. And you might think that's a noble thing. Well, you know what? We should be helping our neighbors. Right. But it shouldn't be a point where you will lose your home because you can't afford to pay for this level of government. And it's not cheap. And then if you rent a home, you also pay for it because that's part of your payment. So how many people can't afford these homes? And that just keeps increasing. There's no cap on how much a rental property can go up. It just goes up with market price. So maybe this year, you're paying $3,000, and next year the landlord needs to charge you $4,000 because his taxes went up that high. It's a brutal system. I feel like there's so much information, and I don't know how to tell people, how are we going to fix this? How are we going to solve this? We can't create more housing because, again, government stands in the way. We can't lower the price of housing because, again, government stands in the way. You can't feed people on the street because then government will come and arrest you for not having a permit to feed the homeless or feed people that are hungry. It's just like every avenue you go towards, there's a roadblock. There's a way for government to keep you in your place. We didn't vote for this.
Yeah.
How did we get here?
Well, that's the part. How exactly we got here? I see much of these things, it's like purposefully done. Because you have these hurdles, clearly the hurdles,
Clearly.
right? But somebody wants that to stay that way.
Yes. So, for example, simple example, one of the things that I discovered when I was running, I kind of was like, oh, I would love to do this. So I love the country of Georgia. Maybe we'll come back and talk about it. But at this point, they're no longer as free as they once were about 2 years ago before the war in Ukraine. But I went there, and one of the things that I love the most about this country is they have one government building where you can solve all of your problems. And they managed to put all of their property, their deeds and everything, onto a blockchain system. So something kind of like Bitcoin. And you can exchange property with somebody because you know exactly who owns that property. So you can be like, hey, Adam, I'm going to exchange, I'm going to buy your property. Here's the money. We do a quick exchange. I make sure you're the owner of the title. Done. Here in the US, in Miami, you have to do a title search and you have to get insurance because we're not sure who actually owns the land. And it's possible that somebody a few, positions back actually owns the land. You usurped it. And now there could be some contention. You could go to court. That process of title search and the payment for it is a few $1,000s on every closing. A few thousand. And I said, oh, wouldn't it be great if we implemented that same system? Why not? Why wouldn't we be the first county in the country to put all of this information out there? So that it's very easy to search and we can bypass this. Well, there's a whole industry against that. And that would be the title search, the attorneys who run it, they fund campaigns, and there's no way that you're going to go against that. So part of it is our system. Part of it is the people who are benefiting are not going to let you.
Just come in and change their game.
I mean, you know what? They could innovate. They could be the ones to be like, we're going to change the system. We're going to voluntarily put this out there. And, now you pay us to see these things. But instead, we wait for government to do it. Government does it. They'll knock them out of the way. I mean, here we are. We're never going to agree. We're never going to agree. It's always going to be this way until somebody is radical enough to be like, I don't care. Let's just go with it.
At the same time, I kind of feel like part of human nature is it involves people who gravitate towards power and are interested in being corrupted and being part of corrupt things.
Of course.
So, and whenever there's a great amount of power, corrupt people go towards it. Good people tend not to want to have a bunch of power. So, I mean, it's kind of...
I agree with that. Unless you see it, I think, the way I see it, which is, this is horrible. How do we change it? How do we become part of it? But generally, I agree with you because most people, especially people who look towards that seat, you don't see CEOs running for this, right? You don't generally see it. And I'm kind of talking bad about myself because I ran for a seat, but I was a CEO. You don't see the Elon Musks of the world running for office. You don't see the Jeff Bezos. You don't see those people. Who do you see? You see somebody who, what's their real job? They're an employee somewhere. So, of course, they're making minimum wage or slightly above that, and then they get into politics and they become rich.
Right.
So who does it really attract? It attracts those who can't really make that kind of money, who have to do the things, massage the system to get ahead. I don't know. I find it very, it's built into the corruption, is who gets into that spot.
Midwits, a lot of them.
And then their campaign managers, who are the actual intelligent people.
Yes.
They are brilliant people, and they know how to run campaigns, and they know how to build up a person and say, vote for me because I'm all this wonderful thing. You doing it yourself is actually really hard.
Yeah. No, it's true. I live vicariously through my friends who ran for office, so.
Don't recommend it.
Don't recommend running for office.
0 stars. 0 out of 10. Mm-mm.
This is your Yelp review. But at the same, I mean, there's positives and negatives. Obviously, you learned something from it. I mean, you learned not to do it again, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
I learned that I think that you can have more impact by showing up to the meetings, becoming vocal, showing people the corruption, and then, telling people how they can solve it. We're not going to allow this. Unfortunately, part of the thing that when you're in office, you're paid to be there.
Right.
You have a salary to do it. As an advocate, there's no money in it. Nobody's going to give you money to do it. Nobody cares to solve the problem for real. They're like, well, that's why we give government all this money. If you could take your tax dollars, for example, and say, hey, do you want to give it to the government or do you want to give it to this advocacy group on your behalf? I bet you there'd be a ton of money going to the advocacy groups. But you're already paying, in my case, every year I spend well over $10,000 just in property taxes to maintain my home. So if those $10,000, I'm already sending it to government, I don't have another $10,000 to go spend on an advocate to go fight for these things. So there's no incentive for people to do it. And right now, unfortunately, I don't have the funds to just spend my time advocating. So I'm going to have to take a step back a little bit. And right now I'm seeing so much corruption. And I'm like, oh, I want to go do these things. I want to go call this out.
Well, speaking of, we're talking about political parties, but the Libertarian Party, where do you see them fitting into all of this? Or do you actually, let me just ask a very...
You saw my face. Okay, go ahead.
Do you see the Libertarian Party ever getting its stuff together to actually make some sort of great impact?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Eventually. Not necessarily the Libertarian Party as it stands or the Libertarian Party as an entity. I met some of the most amazing human beings through the Libertarian Party, and I still do. I mean, my involvement in the Libertarian Party has introduced me to some of the best people, my best friends, it's a community of people who care.
Right.
And among them are some of the most amazing people that I believe will cause freedom to proliferate, this uprising of freedom. Will it be through the party? I don't know. So it's kind of like a so-so, maybe. I would love to see the uprising of the Libertarian Party.
I personally think that libertarians would have more success if they just infiltrated another party. With certain candidates. So like you have Thomas Massey, you have Rand Paul,
Amash, yeah.
So you have
Laura Epke. There's a few.
Right, there's a few. And I think infiltrating an already existing system is probably easier.
I agree.
Than formulating an entire party that 99% of the population has no idea that you exist.
And where it's so fucked up to get into the system.
Yeah.
What most people don't know about the Libertarian Party, and they're like, oh, this is why you're never going to win. No, the reason we're never going to win is because we can't get into those positions of power.
Right.
Because those positions of power are, you have to belong to one of those two teams. The only political party to repeatedly get on the ballot in all 50 states is the Libertarian Party. Even the Green Party, they've never been, I think they've only accomplished it once It is so unbelievably difficult. Right now, RFK is saying he's going to be an independent. Good luck, sir. You need the luck, because the only other person to get on the ballot in all 50 states was Ross Perot in 1992. And he had, I think, billions of dollars and spent, I believe, close to $1 billion getting on the stage in all 50 states. Or on the ballot in all 50 states. It is an unbelievably difficult feat comprising of thousands of volunteer hours in each and every state. So I don't think most Americans understand that process.
Yeah.
And that's really, so yeah, I think if you infiltrate, all of a sudden you have that platform. What you don't have, you'd have to buy into those policies though, or at least sell them back to the people in the party enough. And that's the other thing that people don't realize. Those parties are a very tight machine. There are people who control and who decide who is going to be the candidate for which office.
Right.
Here in my local area, we have a special election for 118, the one that I just said that the current commissioner, he vacated, somebody ran for office, and that person was now moved to another seat. That seat is now open, and the person who is running on the Republican ticket is somebody who does not live in this area, has never lived in this area, lives over by the bay, close to downtown. And there are two people running for this seat on the Republican as well who dropped out mysteriously. I have insider knowledge, and I know that they were told that they were going to be the, you're not getting on the ballot. We're not going to support you. You're not going to have the Republican support. Step aside so that this person can run. Why is that person their choice?
Because they know somebody.
The rainmaker made it.
Mm-hmm.
The other two people were fantastic. One was a firefighter, or is a firefighter that lives in this area, and the other one is very well-known advocate for this area. Both were told to step aside.
So that's the that's the other part that people are. I think a lot of people aren't aware of. It's the corruption within the party itself. My one friend experienced the same thing. She had to, and she basically was told to do these things and you'll get our support. And she didn't want to do those things, so they didn't support it. And then that's when they tried to run somebody against her in an area that they're not even from. Mm-hmm. She's from, right? And what did she do?
That happened to me.
That happened to you? Yeah. And then she kicked their ass, and then all of a sudden the party's like, oh, well, well.
That didn't happen to me, though.
Oh,
I didn't kick his ass.
Yeah.
But that was, I was approached long before my neighbor was. And I didn't want to take it. I thought about it long and hard. Today, if you would ask me, I would have taken it. Only because I think that I could have done something good in that seat. I would have held back a little bit just to be able to get in the seat and then be, this is who I am. I'm sorry, you didn't want me to talk about cannabis? Well, cannabis. But in the running, I wanted to be as honest and true to myself. And so when I was approached and was offered, those are the spent ones. These are the good ones.
Oh.
Do not take from the spent ones. You're not going to have a good time.
That would have been weird.
So, yeah, it happened to me too. I think that the amount of corruption, most people don't know, how bad it is.
Yeah.
So, they're cold.
Yeah, they are, but it's all right. I'm not too. When it comes to food, I'm not the pickiest. When it comes
I
to
am.
that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is good to me, nearly everything. Yeah, what can a regular person actually do about that? Like the corrupt party problem.
That's a loaded question because I wish I had that answer and I would be doing it. I thought the right thing to do was to run for office. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think that what we missed the mark with the Libertarian Party is we should have a party. We should not have necessarily a political party, but we should have events where you get together with your neighbors and you discuss these things. Whatever that thing is, you should be able to talk to your neighbors and be like, hey, by the way, are you planning for the zombie apocalypse? You know what I mean? Like, we should be having these conversations and then being able to talk to them about, did you see what our commissioners did? Yeah. Like, let's get together, let's organize on this issue. There's too many issues. You can't cover them all. You can't know them all. We expect politicians to know them all. We expect candidates running for office to know them all. I don't know how we can solve it. It's just going to take civic engagement. It's just going to take people waking up and being like, wait, why can't I go out today? Why, why did my government shut me in my house? People talk about Florida being open. Florida was open. Miami-Dade and Broward County shut down for 2 months during COVID because our local politicians decided that. Our governor said no, and then the local politician said, yeah. And we were shut in our homes. There were police out on the street. You see videos of people that were arrested for going to the beach, an empty beach, and they were arrested because some politician somewhere that is, most people can't even tell you who it was. It was our current mayor at the time, Carlos Jimenez. Just like, people don't even know who their commissioners are. They don't know who are making these decisions for them. How can you hold somebody accountable? You know who the president of the United States is, but do you know who the people who are actually affecting your lives are?
Right.
So I think that's really where it's going to come from, is us becoming civically engaged locally and really pushing for those changes on a local level. I would love to see Miami the freest city, county in the nation. Mm-hmm. And then other people being like, oh, we can embody that. We can do that. We can emulate them.
Right.
Honestly, I have not reached out to my current neighbors, but I think we should, this little area that is very different to everyone else in this area, I would love to see us just being like, no, we're unincorporated. Let's have our own government here. Mm. Let's step away from I don't think we would ever be able to do it. Most people don't see the world the way I do, but that would be a great experiment.
I also think that most things work.
In government?
What I'm saying is how it produces. Like, the police department exists, the fire department exists. There are laws that are in place. Like, most things tend to work. And so...
Until they don't. Like Lahaina.
Right.
In Hawaii. 5 hours to get their water turned on when they have a major fire that is killing people.
That is true. That's what I'm saying. Because most
We've been fortunate here.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And we've seen in an emergency how incompetent these people are.
Right. But you don't put them to the test.
Exactly. But I think it's the issue of when most things work, people assume everything works, and so they don't see it as an emergency. They don't have the foresight to see yeah, but this problem, even though it's not most things, it could turn into something really big, right? So then they don't look.
Also, you're busy living your life.
Oh yes, and that's of course. Most
people are just trying to get through taking the kids to school, getting to work on time, producing enough to be able to pay your rent and your blah 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 blah.
It's not
easy.
I was gonna say, I don't even know if this is the right thing to say, but it's not really supposed to be our job to see if people are doing their job, so to speak.
But it is, though.
That
is the purpose of the United States. That was the original idea.
I think from a standpoint of, if you're employed somewhere, if you became a cashier, you have a store manager, right? It's your store manager's job to make sure that you're doing your job. It's not the CEO's job to make sure that you're doing your job. It's not the customer's job to make sure that you're doing your job.
But if the CEO, customers aren't coming in and having a fulfilling experience, they're going to leave.
Right, and the customers can give complaints.
Right, and it is the CEO's job to figure out why this is happening.
Right.
We don't have a CEO that cares what is happening realistically. So the CEO for Miami would be the Miami-Dade County mayor. Mm-hmm. However, the mayor is the one who is damaging the system. And I hate to say it that way, but we've added, since she became mayor, when she became mayor, we had a $9 billion budget. We now have an $11.7 billion budget. We've gone up almost $3 billion, and there's nothing to show for it. Oh, but we do have a heat officer that she implemented. Not as in the Miami Heat, the basketball team, but the heat officer to control climate change at the Miami-Dade County level. And then the heat officer has a assistant heat officer, and they're both making
Well, hold on.
$100,000 plus.
The heat officer is really busy, though. That's why you need the assistant heat officer. I never heard of a heat officer.
No, we were the first. There's actually, if you
Oh,
look
okay.
up Miami-Dade County heat officer, the headlines are the first of its kind, as if this was something to be proud of. It is blatant how they abuse the system. The mayor has a budget, and under her budget, she is supposed to have all of her staff. Well, her budget is only so big, and you want to add all of these people. How do you do it? You hire them as county employees, but they're actually your employees. Her office has just exploded in how much money they spend, how much corruption. And I don't have the resources to take that budget and dissect it and say, this. These are the problems. Who has that budget? The county.
Right.
Do they do it? No. So, like the problem is the incentive. Like in a business, the CEO has the incentive. He doesn't make money if the company doesn't make money, right? That doesn't happen in government.
Right.
Government will always be able to take from you and will always make money.
But I heard that money was free.
Oh, of course. For the government, for the federal government, they get to print their own money. But in a county, they have to take it from you or from the system. Our airport is a disaster. You didn't fly into it. Are you flying out of it?
I'm flying out of it.
Oh, well, you'll find out. Let me know how those non-moving walkways work for you. Or it's always an elevator's broken or multiple. Right now, the SkyTrain is broken, which is the train that our airport is like one long snake-looking thing, right? So if you need to get from one side to the other or like to your terminal, you ride the SkyTrain. That broke. Who needs it? It's a mile walk. I mean, make it. You'll be fine.
Just come to the airport 4 hours early.
Sure. I mean, if you're young and healthy, it's a mile. I got you. If you're not young and healthy or you have a broken foot or something, good luck.
I was going to ask, well, not really ask, I was going to say, I'd be willing to bet that the heat advisor, it was a heat advisor,
I think so. Something.
they know someone. Like they're connected.
Oh, yeah. The
Yeah.
heat officer that was hired was involved in one of the mayor's other endeavors.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. This is cronyism at its finest. Of course. Oh, wait. I've never said that it's not cronyism.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
complete. It's like, the thing is, that could have been me. All I had to do, I happened to have a private personal connection to her through my uncle. Him and his wife are friends with her personally from a long time ago. And actually, it was kind of funny because I said something about her on Twitter. This is when she was running for office. And she sent a message to my uncle to have me take it down. And so I responded to him. My uncle was pulled out of Cuba by my father. My father was a political prisoner in Cuba. He managed to get, my mom broke him out of jail. He managed to get out of Cuba and make it to the United States, and then bring his mother, father, my uncle, my mom, and my brother all this way after 6 months, a year, I'm not sure. And I reminded my uncle that my father got him out of Cuba because the government will shut you down and you don't have a right to speak. How dare anyone ask me to shut up, and especially him. And I think that was the end of that.
Yeah.
He never asked me again to take something down, and I freely will speak about her. So I could have gone down that path. I could have been like, Mayor, I love you so much. Can I have a position in your cabinet? Can I do this? I probably would have been appointed to the commission without that amount of work because we've had some vacancies in that time frame. It's just not who I am.
I mean, I think that's good that you didn't sacrifice.
I refuse. It's kind of who I am. I can't help it. Sometimes I want to. I would love to just be able to comply. Actually, no.
No,
Nah.
it doesn't sound that fun.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it does in the I think if you're just like blissfully unaware, that sounds like a nice life. I would like to be able to just relax, enjoy, I don't know, live life. Instead, I'm like out fighting with people over politics. Like, why, Martha? Why?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a number of people who are similar positions where they've been advised to just shut up and take the money, or just play the game, don't ruffle any feathers.
Don't say anything out of, don't rock the boat. I don't know that would be a good life for me.
I mean, I think that great things happen when the outliers become the outliers.
Or not, or you get shot. Or not.
There's always sacrifice.
But
then those people who get shot, they remain in folklore.
This is true.
Look at the United States.
But some people get shot and the story around it is muddled, and then you're not folklore. I think JFK is a perfect example of this. We hold him up as, look at this president who was murdered by this one person, which I don't buy for a minute. I think that our government was involved. I think it was a coup, and it went under the table. We really don't talk about it. And so yes, maybe you'll be that martyr. Maybe one day you'll be that person that people are like, oh my God, so-and-so, like talked about. I don't think it always works out that way. You have to have a big enough following. People have to know what you're about. You have to be a Martin Luther King. And even still, the government murdered him, and we don't talk about that aspect.
It's always a risk. There's a risk in everything. I mean, there's always a risk whenever you're trying to build a legacy. Even if you're the person who's who's shutting up and taking the money, something negative can happen to you.
And often does.
Yeah.
Often does. I mean, there comes a point where you go, I'm not doing this anymore, and then you become the pariah.
Yeah. Or you become Bob Menendez with cash in the wallet and all types of stuff.
Absolutely. You become the scapegoat when you no longer serve their purpose. So even taking the money and shutting up has its risk. Just putting your name out there. Listen, at the end of the day, especially like from my end, nobody's going to love me. Like there's not going to be, everybody loves you, right? My mom used to tell me like, you're not a gold coin. Everybody's not going to love you. And it's absolutely true. So just putting your name out there, you automatically get people that just hate you.
Right.
Off the bat. I don't know. She rubs me the wrong way. I hate her. And that, like, it runs you down. Like, I make a post anywhere on any social media, and it's like, you're an idiot. You're this. You're, shut up. You shouldn't have a say. You shouldn't talk about this. Oh, you think you're this. If you look at it, it wears you down. It wears everybody down. It's hard.
I don't read every comment, especially when I write articles. I don't read any of the comments on the.
That's smart.
On the
Joe Rogan does that.
Yeah, I don't read any of it because you know what it is. Because I understand. Just so you know, we were talking about before. I'm an IT guy by trade, but I have a really big interest in psychology. So, like when I wrote my book, there's psychological concepts that I wrote about. I didn't know what the terms were called until like my psychology friends started telling me, like, actually what you described is called this. But I understand. Right. And I people watch and watch what people do. But when you I lost my train of thought.
Psychology, when you wrote the book, you're watching people. There's an underlying fundamental people love to hate. I don't know where you were going with that, but
yeah. Oh, that's what it is. People are attracted to negativity. So there's that. But even we're aware of the negativity. So, for example, if there was a mountain lion next door, right, you should feel some sort of danger because there's a mountain lion next door. You should be aware of it, right? And when we see something negative, we remember that, right? We remember the mountain lion next door that happened that one day, but we don't remember the other days, right, where the mountain lion wasn't there, right? So we remember the negativity because it's part of our survival. We're supposed to remember negative things, but
absolutely.
But that's why
and that's why you engage with it, and that's why politics is negative. Absolutely, it draws us in. It keeps us engaged. It's
useful. I think useful negativity I think it really just depends. I think what happens is random comments from people who are nameless, faceless avatars on the internet should not really matter that much. Right? Especially if they have something negative to say. They don't know you. Some people quite literally just say things to get a rise out of you so that they get your attention. Right? So you're not supposed to see these things. Right? But once you see it, it's in here now. Like you can't get rid of that. So that's why minimizing what you see and what you read, like especially on Twitter, I usually just respond to the people who pop up in my notifications because Twitter is actually really good at filtering out negative responses and showing good responses because you're more likely to engage with good responses. So I usually just follow that and I ignore the rest and I overlook. Like so when people are like, oh man, people give you giving you crap.
Engaging with that though.
I don't even care.
I think it helps. So not for that one person, right? So I will engage with, let's say, socialists or communists because it's not for that communist. I'm not going to change that person's mind. My goal is to change the mind of the other people who are reading that comment. The other people who saw that I commented on a communist and the communists come after me and people are like, oh my God, how do you deal with all that negativity? It doesn't affect me in the sense that we live in America, which we're a little heading in a direction I don't like. But overall, you can say your piece in America.
Right.
And so it doesn't affect me. Hey, you want more communism? Swell. Just go live over there. I'm happy to pay for you to go live in Cuba, North Korea, Venezuela. You take your pick. I will pay. You give up your citizenship. I'll send you over that way. Go live over there. I want people to be like, why? Why are you so anti this ideology that is promising me the future? It's like, why? Because my parents had to escape it in Cuba. Then we moved to Venezuela where we had to escape it again. Twice in my parents' lifetime, in their short lifespan, they've had to start from zero again. Because a country that they were in, that they invested their time, they built their lives, they had a home, they lived, they've had to leave it. And it was fine before, and then it turned to shit. And Venezuela turned to shit, literal shit, in front of my eyes. I was a child living in Venezuela, and I was like, I'm not going to pretend that everything was perfect. There's no place on earth where everything is perfect.
Right.
But you could live a good life. You could work, you could make money, you could support your family. You had a good life. And then one day, and it didn't happen overnight, but you see it, and it's so similar to what I see happening in the United States right now. It started with a political division. The rich have your money. You're poor because that guy over there took your money. That guy over there is evil. He hoards all the money. And it starts there, and then these guys that promise this equality take over, and then they seize the means of production. In Venezuela, they use the word expropriate. And you can go on the internet and look for Hugo Chavez expropriations. And he would just walk down the street of Caracas and be like, that building over there, expropiese, which meant take it for me, for my government. He took the petroleum production of Venezuela. He took many industries. He then issued these, mandates where milk is going to now cost, I don't know, let's use dollars, $4 a gallon. And then the Bolivar went really high up. And now all of a sudden, $4 equivalent was you needed 1 million bolivares or whatever the number was to buy it. And people are like, I can't afford that and nobody was producing it because who's going to produce it at a cost that is ineffective? And it's just a cycle that just goes to shit. And people here are asking for that. And it's like, those are the people that I want to reach. The ones who are using their brain. And they're like, no, but I want that system because right now, the way I am, I feel oppressed. You're going to feel more oppressed, I promise you. If you let that system happen, the oppression you feel now is child's play. So I read the negative comments for that reason. Long way of saying, I read it for that reason. I read it to also respond to...
Hello.
Hi. Hi, you're coming into an interview. Say hi. You're on camera. Bye. My mom is my neighbor.
Gotcha.
Yeah, she's the one that broke my dad out of jail, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, where was I going with that?
No, just interacting with people,
Yeah.
with the negative comments.
I have to. I have to. How else do you know how to respond to people if you don't hear these things? You have to hear it, come up with a good answer, and then you use the same answer 50 times over if you have to.
So I think everybody has a strategy, right? So that's one strategy. I'll just tell you my strategy. My strategy is to sit back, watch, listen, and then speak when necessary. So I see all types of crazy stuff from everybody. These days, it feels like everybody's losing their fucking mind. So I sit back.
It pays to lose your mind.
It pays to lose their mind. And some of them pretend to be losing their mind, right? Because that also pays. But I sit back and watch, and I am a rhetoric person now. So there's the psychology part. I'm looking at psychology, like what makes people respond to certain things? Why do people see things in the way that they do? But then there is the rhetoric part, which when you become like someone like myself who's writing opinions and then writing articles and books and stuff like that, you start to understand the power of words. And that's one area where like the political right hasn't fully understood the power of words. Mm-hmm. The left has.
Really good at it.
They so are. Like,
amazing.
As much as I disagree with like
you got to give them credit where credit is due. That's the thing.
They're able to take a word and reframe it and repackage it and make the people who hate that concept absorb it and start saying the very same things.
Absolutely.
And I'm just like, it's
It's brilliant. They know how to organize and they know how to do that, right? They know how to like for example, something that I find of that, why is it that Nazism, right, being a Nazi is a very bad thing, mm-hmm. right? Like everybody knows that a Nazi is a horrible person and you don't want to be that. Communism has killed more than Nazism. Mm-hmm. And yet they blatantly say that they are comrades and they want communism and and people are like, oh, well, that's nice. And so, in that case, they didn't necessarily change the word per se, but now it's like democratic socialism. Mm-hmm. Well, what's democratic socialism and how is that different than socialism? Oh, no, it's socialism, but it's like nicer because you get to vote it in. I want democratic communism then. I get to vote it in, but the only way out is fighting. They're really, really good at it.
One of the things with myself being focused on rhetoric, and you sit back and you listen to people, and you see how people say a lot, but they said absolutely nothing. It's like you just said
Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Kamala Harris. I'm sorry, I say it with a Spanish accent. People have a problem with how I call her Kamala. It's my accent, sorry.
It's okay. Yes, actually, quite literally, she's, the way I've described her, when she's giving a speech, she sounds like the kid who has a book report to give, but didn't actually do it. So now he's just spitballing. The grapes of wrath, that was a time period where there were a lot of grapes and people were angry. You're like, you didn't read the book at all. I
think that's like the best way I've heard absolutely describing Kamala Harris.
So when she's like, Ukraine, it's a place in Europe. And it's like, what? Did you not prepare?
Not at all.
You have no idea what you're
talking
about.
None whatsoever. I recently encountered the Wrath of the Kamala Harris group.
Oh, the K-Hive.
Is that what they're called?
They're called the K-Hive, yeah.
Oh, shit, okay. I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah.
And I said that I didn't like her for some reasons. I think I have plenty of them.
I guess you became a racist.
Wouldn't you know it? I didn't realize I was a racist until they told me, and now I know I am blatantly racist. I don't like Kamala, not because she's, a terrible politician, but because she's black, which she's not actually black. She's Jamaican of Indian ancestry, but whatever, I guess. Now she's officially, she was given the hood card, so now she's good.
She's good.
I'm like, oh my God. So is that the case? If I speak ill about somebody, on their policies or their whatever, then I'm just a racist. Is that how it works?
That's exactly how it works.
When did this become
And
a
if
thing?
I say it, I'm a coon.
Oh, damn.
So,
I didn't realize it was for both of us. I thought you could just go ahead and like say something about Kamala.
no,
like,
just like white supremacy is universal.
right. Yes. I've been accused of being a white supremacist as
Exactly.
well.
Matter of fact, they would probably even say, you are a white passing Latina.
That too.
Yes.
I have been called all sorts
So
of
that's your lived experience is from a outwardly, you would pass as a white person. So you get the white privilege card.
You know what? I would agree, though, that there is a privilege, but it is not the color of your skin. I think that there is a privilege to being female. I mean, I'm sick and tired of hearing how women were so oppressed. I don't agree with that. I think that there are some things that we definitely get, we get the short end of the stick on a lot of things. And some of that short end of the stick we put ourselves in this position. We now work way harder than ever before. We now want to be career women and mothers and all these things. And then we're fighting for all of this. And our lives are just a chaotic mess that we've kind of looked for ourselves. I'm not saying it was perfect before, but we need to find that balance. I do think that there is, there is levels of racism, classism, around the world and everywhere you go. And you can't control that. I can't walk into a Louis Vuitton store and expect wearing flip-flops and like looking, and being like, why didn't they give me service? Because people judge you based on how they see you. It's the way the world works. It served us in a purpose. If you like that mountain lion you were saying, if you see a mountain lion, you're not going to be like, is it a cat? You're going to assume that it's a mountain lion and you're going to run the other way. It's the way we present ourselves. It's the way humanity has developed. Pretending that we can get rid of it or whatever, I think is what's really doing us in. I don't know. I think that we're just angry about the wrong things.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who's truly racist today. I don't know anybody who's truly sexist today. I mean, there are people, sure. And I mean, there's going to be men who are like, oh, sweetheart, and yeah, maybe that has a level of sexism, but I don't know somebody that's like, I'm not going to give you the job because you are a woman. Does it exist? Probably. Is it the vast majority? No.
No. What I think, everybody has a struggle.
Yes.
Everybody
Life
has
is
a struggle.
hard.
Life is hard.
Life is unbearably hard sometimes for everyone.
And the thing is, I feel like people act like the issues of today, everything was fine before and today.
And today it's miserable.
Right. And it's like, actually, I don't know. I would still prefer to live today than 100 years ago.
Absolutely. Even the kings of England 300 years ago, they didn't have a bathroom with a flushing toilet. They didn't have air conditioning and central heating when you need it. I obviously don't. I live in Miami. They didn't have a variety of foods, for example. They didn't have the cleanliness. So even the kings, they didn't have Netflix. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have a cell phone. They didn't have, even the kings of bygone eras, the richest of the rich, don't live the way the average American lives today.
Right. Exactly.
I'd rather live like an average American than a king of 300 years ago.
I would agree with you. And I can't stand people who aren't thankful.
Absolutely.
So like, as much as we're talking about problems, right? We're talking about, yes, there's corrupt elements. There will always be corruption, but we can still complain about those things. We're supposed to.
We still have the ability to.
We have the ability to.
They're not going to hang us for doing it.
No.
Or whatever else that they've done for speaking out. In Cuba, you go to jail for speaking out against the government. I am grateful every day that I am able to talk shit on Twitter as much as I want.
Yeah. But I think, it's a shame that someone like yourself, you weren't born in this country.
I was born in this country.
Wait, you were born in
I was born in this country. No. Okay. My brother was born in Cuba. My oldest brother was born in Cuba.
Okay.
My mom broke my dad out of jail, got my mom, my dad, my brother, everybody out of Cuba. They moved to New Jersey first, had my sister and brother, then moved to Venezuela. No, I'm not an anchor baby. My parents were already full on American citizens. They moved to Venezuela. My mom got pregnant in Venezuela, gave birth to me in the United States because she didn't want to give birth in Venezuela. My grandparents were living here. Again, she didn't come and stay at a hotel and, deliver the child. And then she was here for a few months, had me, and then went back to Venezuela. I was in Venezuela since I was 9 days old. So almost not born here, but totally born here.
Okay.
And then raised back and forth. I know it's confusing for me too. Okay, my parents could have just picked one country and stuck to it. That would have been swell.
Your parents were world travelers.
World livers. They just really wanted to start over as many times as possible.
Jeez. But no, I think people should be grateful for what they do have. You can complain about certain things, but I think we should be grateful for the things that we have. And I'll just tell you, because I don't know if you know these things, I've been homeless. I've been homeless multiple times. Homeless as a kid, a couple times, once as an adult. And so my progression in my professional life, struggling and figuring things out while being a father and raising my son and all these things, I'm grateful for where I'm at. I'm grateful that I'm not check to check anymore. I'm grateful that now I'm married and I have a support system to do these things. The times that I was alone and had to figure things out and didn't have a support system, now I have a support system all over the country. I'm here with you. I asked you, and you gracefully, allowed me in your home. So I'm extremely thankful for all the different things that God has provided for me, and I see much of those personal things that I went through as tests. And so that's why I feel comfortable where I'm at today, because I went through those tests, and I know if I was to experience something close to it, that I can surpass it again.
Right.
So,
and you know how to make money, and you know how to put yourself in this position, and you've tested yourself, and I feel the same way. You're coming into a house that is nice for this area, and I'm very grateful for the position that I've been in. But I started off as a young mom at 21 without a degree, without a way to make money. And before that, I had seen my parents literally start from zero. When we moved back to this country, I was 15 years old. 14, just about to turn 15, and I had to get a job because I saw my mom not being able to get a job herself, and I knew my dad couldn't afford to support us. We lived at my brother's house, in a room, we started from zero, literally started from zero, and built our way up. So I feel the same way you do. I am blessed to have been able to rely on myself to I know people hate that, to pull yourself up from the bootstraps. You can't always do it. And sometimes the world is against you. And that's exactly what got me into this political thing to start with. Because I saw how every time I tried to pull myself up, there was a roadblock in the way. And it wasn't the roadblock that people were telling me. It wasn't because I was a woman. It was a roadblock that the government put in place for me. So just simple things, like when I started a business, you can't actually have a business unless you know how to start it, how to go to the government and say, can I have a permit, please? Oh, and also you need to go to the fire station and get, them to sign off of it. And also you need to send us a check for this much money to keep it going, even if you haven't made any money. And then you make a little bit of money and you owe them all this money. So now you have to figure it out because I wasn't knowledgeable. I didn't go to college and somebody taught me this is how you do a business. I was a young kid with a baby, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, look, I have some money. And then my accountant's like, oh no, you owe all this money to the government now. And I was like, from where? I didn't get that money. That money went to pay employees. And then I had to learn to be more savvy about taxes. And then I had 3 hurricanes come through my business in 2005. Everybody heard about Katrina because Katrina devastated New Orleans, but Katrina came through Miami first. We had Katrina, we had Rita, and then we had Wilma. And Wilma destroyed my business completely. I had to start from zero again. And when I said, well, I've been, the silent partner of mine that I've been paying, hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, they'll understand that this year I don't have the money because my entire business wiped away and I had to pay my employees because I wasn't going to let them starve and, the things. And the government's like, we don't care. We don't care. You owe these things. Take it, we'll put you in jail if you don't provide it for us. So I think that there's something so profound of struggling hard and making it through. And number one, you learn a lesson. And number two, you become so grateful for everything you have. And, I don't feel like I deserve anything. And sometimes I encounter people online that are like, I deserve to have this lifestyle.
No, you deserve what you earn.
You don't deserve the hard things that happen to you. Nobody deserves them, but they happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that before.
I deserve to live.
I deserve
to drive a Mercedes and have a latte prepared by somebody else every morning. It's like, no.
Yeah.
No, you don't. Sorry, I deserve to have somebody serve me breakfast every morning. I don't get it,
Yeah. Oh, man. So I'm trying to ask this question to everybody I sit down with. Are you optimistic about the future?
I don't sound it, do I?
No, I mean, we're talking about both sides.
I am optimistic.
Okay.
Because life always gets better.
Mm.
If you look at human progression over the years, our human minds put things, we figure things out, right? We figured out how to get shelter, and now everybody just assumes shelter is a given. We know how to have running water, and everyone just assumes everybody has running water. We learn how to harness fire, and now everybody eats nicely cooked meals. And we figured out how to refrigerate our foods, and now everybody doesn't eat fermented or food that has gone bad. We figure things out.
Right.
I can't wait to see what the next, I want to live long enough to see what the future looks like. I expected the Jetsons type of lifestyle. I might be dating myself. The Jetson style,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I wanted Rosie the robot. How come I didn't get to live the Rosie the robot lifestyle? I want to live that. I want to see what humans can come up with. So I guess ultimately I'm an optimist. If we can get government out the way.
Okay.
Are you?
I am an optimist. I'm painfully optimistic about things. Much of the same reasons. Humans are adaptable. We always identify a problem. Sometimes it takes us a while to figure out a solution for it or motivation to implement a solution for it.
That too.
Often we wait till failure happens, then we get up and finally do something about it. That's one of those things. But I'm optimistic that we will have a solution for many of the issues that we face. I think a lot of people are like ourselves who are waking up and doing something, or trying to do something.
I hope so.
I talked to you about the people who were reborn in 2020, like myself, who moved from one profession into another to advocate for something that they think is something beneficial for society. So those people and those situations give me hope that not everybody is complacent. Not everybody will just go with the flow, even if it makes no sense. Most people comply because human nature.
Yeah, the other side of that coin. The people you saw with a mask in their cars all alone.
Right.
Right. Those scare me.
Right, and those people typically tend to be. I hate saying this because it sounds bad, but people are sheep, right? We're all a little bit sheep about something.
Everybody has a weak side.
We always have a little bit of sheep about us, but it's the outliers. No, it's all good. It's not good. It's all good. We have outliers in our society. Those outliers are meant to be in our society. There's very, very few people who stick their neck out and say something is wrong or this needs to change, right? But we remember those people often. We remember, not every time, but we often remember those people. Or we don't know who those people are, but they inspired somebody else to do something, and we remember those people.
Yeah.
But I think those outliers change society for the better. So
I hope so.
I'm seeing more and more outliers. Like I said, I'm an IT guy. Like, I'm not really supposed to be sitting here with you. But
True.
I'm
You're an
doing
inspiration,
something.
honestly.
Thank you.
I think
appreciate
that
it.
we need so many more people like you, because it's not going to be, there's only so many that we can, I mean, and I hope that both of us, we end up being able to like really make a difference in the world. But I think we need so many more. I think we need to, I hope that we're the generation that inspires the next generation. I hope that we're the generation that inspires like the kid that's running around. I hope that, you know, I hope that we do. We need that, you know. So yeah, I love meeting more people like us.
Yeah.
And I think that there needs to be more people like us, like just like calling it out.
Yeah. And I think that's what I'm trying to do with this project. It's not to, a lot of video series and podcasts, it's not to crap all over them. But I think their intention is to get the most notable person ever to build up their numbers. But I think there's extreme amount of value in talking to regular people who are interesting. You're a regular person who did something that she wasn't really supposed to do, right? Run for office and be part of government. And here I am sitting in your home because I saw what you were doing. And I think that is interesting. The umpteenth professor who has written another book talking about the intricacies and theories about X, Y, and Z. I mean, that's fine. That's for certain people.
Sorry, teenagers, that's landlords.
It's all good. I mean, those things are fine. It's a niche for everybody. But I think,
and I love those too.
Yeah, I watch them sometimes too.
Yeah.
But I do think that the voices of regular people are missing.
Yeah, and I think politics has the power to really move people into into that sphere. Obviously, I'm not that level, but somebody like Javier Milei in Argentina, who is waking up the population to like, he uses this term, I'm here to wake up I'm not here to lead the sheep, I'm here to wake up the lions. And that's what I think we're doing in our own ways.
Yeah.
We're waking up the lions that are going to be like, I'm not taking this, because sheep, who wants to lead sheep? Sheep will do what you tell them to do. And you're a good person. So if you lead sheep, well, you're going to lead them to a good place. But then those sheep, when you're no longer here, or I'm no longer here, those sheep are going to follow the next guy that says something that sounds similar. You said earlier that, you know, that's kind of how people, off camera, you said that's like the people who do that, like in the case of Pearl, you know, they give you a little bit of truth and then they fill you with this other stuff. So if that sheep leader is somebody that gives you a little bit of truth that you were used to, then you're going to follow them and then you just buy the crap too.
Yeah.
So I don't want that. I don't want, I think the term for it now is simps.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of people who have simps that will like simp for them, especially online. You see it and it's like, Pearl is a good example. Andrew Tate is a good example. Their message might be okay, might be fine, might be needed, but the people who follow them will follow them, you know, and defend them, even in the indefensible.
Right.
They're just leading the sheep.
Yeah. And it's part of human nature to not be wrong, right?
Or not want to be wrong. Or
not want to be wrong.
They've
invested themselves, right? I am a such and such fan, or I am this political persuasion, I am a Republican, I'm a Democrat. So they want to make sure that they defend the position that they've taken, right? And any rational person would be like, that doesn't make any sense what you're saying, and they will defend it. I was talking to Tiffany Justice yesterday of Moms for Liberty, and we were talking about that. Like, how do you defend a book that is in libraries within schools talking about strap-on dildos? How do you defend that? And I was explaining to her, and I'm probably going to write an article about this, but like, but what ends up happening is like, there's two reasons why someone would defend in a child's book that talks about strap-on dildos. Is that one, you have perverts, right?
Yes.
So there's
That's a
purpose
big
in-
problem too.
That's a big problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the second part is that there are people who will fight to the death to defend their side, their ideology, their whatever, even if it makes no sense. And they will grasp at straws.
We have that now in politics. Anywhere you look, I mean, that's an extreme case, of course.
Right.
But I remember when the Democratic Party was anti-war.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Jane Fonda was arrested for protesting the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
And now Democrats are, we have to give more money to Ukraine.
Yeah.
I don't get how people who were staunch Democrats during that time, during the Vietnam era, are now saying we must go to war, we must do these things, we must grow the military-industrial complex. That used to be a Republican thing. And now we have both sides doing it.
It wasn't even that long ago. I remember, and I wasn't like into politics, but the general sentiment after the Iraq War and going into Afghanistan, we were anti-war. Why were we anti-war? Well, now I would say we were anti-war because George W. Bush was the
into
one.
war, yeah.
Right? So we suddenly became anti-war, no blood for oil, all this other stuff. But then
I
what
remember
happens?
the Republican side of that, which was war hawks.
Oh, yeah. But then you know what happened, right? Obama got into office. And Obama ran on no more stupid wars. We're closing down Guantanamo Bay. We're doing all these, yeah. And then what happens? He increases the wars.
Yeah.
And no one says anything.
Carpet bombs people.
No, kills an American citizen.
Yeah, kills an American citizen. But you know what? And I say this all the time. God damn, did he look good in that suit as he was killing people?
Yeah.
Because that's what people care about. They're like, how great we had this president with no scandals. Is killing an American citizen not a scandal?
Well, he was a terrorist. I mean, you know. Or how about what's the percentage of people that they were drone bombing that were actually enemy combatants?
Very
Oh,
little.
well, it's very little, yeah.
Very little.
Well, you know what, listen.
But it's a few casualties. I mean, honestly, listen, it's war. You know, people die. Like, this is the way we justify it. And because it's not you. And that's the thing that, like, when you see a specific story about so-and-so who was devastated by this, you have compassion for that person, or you may have. But when it's a country so far away, and, you know, because we've thankfully not experienced war here on our shores. I mean, 9/11, and yes, we had before then the day that will live in infamy, you know, D-Day, and we had Pearl Harbor. But
don't forget January 6th.
oh, for fuck's sake! I can't even. Oh my God! My problem with January 6th is nobody showed up prepared. If that was their case, like if you're going to tell me that they were going to storm the Capitol and really do something. Are these people that incompetent that they didn't show up with, like, weapons?
Apparently so. Was it probably the most armed nation in the world, citizenry, and no one brought guns?
Not a single one.
Not a single one.
Not a single one.
Yet they were there to topple the government. What were they going to topple the government with? I don't know.
They were just going to march on in there.
As they were being showed, the steps were, you know, like...
yeah, giving a grand tour.
Giving a grand tour.
The lectern guy, you know, like he took a picture with the lectern and his little poofy hat, and we had the other guy with the horns, and it was a show.
They were walking between the ropes.
Yes, and I hope that if someday somebody really is going to topple the government, that's not how they do it. I'm not going to, I don't want anyone canceled, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But this is not how we do it. And I think that I saw something and retweeted it the other day where it's like, bring back the proper attire for government is tar and feathers. Mm. Bring that back. Like, let's actually hold our government accountable. I don't think that the right solution is to go in there and start a revolution. I think revolutions never end the way we really want them to.
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
We can do the things. We can stop the train that we can see derailing. We can slow it down and put it back on course, but it's going to take all of us getting involved, or a select group of people getting involved and other people backing them. Mm-hmm. But you can't keep backing the establishment. Oh, we can only vote for R's or D's and, you know, and have something change. It's never going to happen. So Let's wake up the lions. Let's, you know, like it's a long process, unfortunately. And I don't think we have the stamina.
I mean,
I hope we do.
I hope we do.
I hope we do.
But I think it was a good point to leave on. Did you enjoy your meal?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was good.
it was good.
I don't know that I'd call them again to deliver food.
That was
but it
going to be my
good.
next question. Would you recommend it?
No,
No.
it was okay. How about your rice?
It was good for being cold.
Okay, well that's fair. I think it showed up warm-ish.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
It was
'cause
never hot.
By the time I started eating, it wasn't like it was a long time.
Right.
So I think it was probably a little cold.
Yeah. We don't have to give him a shout out.
Yeah.
I probably won't call him back. It
You're
wasn't
not giving
terrible.
a shout out.
We're not giving you a shout out. We won't order from you again.
But thank you so much for inviting me into your home and welcoming me. I can't speak. Welcoming me. That's why I couldn't say it. To Miami.
Bienvenido. Enjoy your stay. And thank you so much for coming all the way over here. All the way out west.
Thank you so much.
When you turn